Canadian state. Institutions like the justice system and federal prisons are benefiting from our misery and grief. I've been institutionalized, traumatized, abused, and indoctrinated to be a Christian. First Nations of Canada achieved constitutional milestones in 1982. We acquired constitutionally entrenched Aboriginal and treaty rights in Section 35, or special rights and special status. I heard non-Aboriginal people say, "I'm proud to be a Canadian," and they know absolutely nothing about the true history of Canada. In 2007, Canada ratified the Indian Residential Schools Settlement Agreement for residential school abuses. The Indian Residential Schools class action lawsuit was the largest settlement in the history of Canada. As part of the Indian Residential Schools Settlement Agreement, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada was launched to examine the legacy of Indian residential schools. On June 11, 2008, the Prime Minister of Canada issued a statement of apology on behalf of Canadians for abuse and trauma at the Indian residential schools. The residential school system impacted generations of First Nations children. In 1994, Native residential school survivors went public about their residential school experience. Many survivors described the experience as an attempt to brainwash them into rejecting their traditional ways in favor of European values and Christianity. The policy behind the government-funded church-run schools attempted to kill the Indian and the child. Native residential school survivors were harshly disciplined if they stepped out of line or rebelled against authority figures. The residential school closed, the last residential school closed its doors in 1996. A large number of Aboriginal children died in the residential schools. 3,800, could be more. Indian residential school indoctrination and European Christianity led to the disconnection from the land, community, family, and culture. European settlers and missionaries assumed we were heathen, unchurched, and pagans because we had no religion. In 1876, First Nations on reserves became subject to the power of the Indian Act and wars of the state. The principles of assimilation and control that governments applied to Aboriginal people for more than a century must be rejected. Governments must honor the outstanding treaty and constitutional issues that were agreed upon with the Aboriginal people, but that have been frequently ignored. The practices of non-Aboriginal society that demean Aboriginal people and often sought to destroy their institutions must end. Residential school history and nation-to-nation treaties need to be taught in the Toronto schools. Ignorance promotes stereotypes, racism, and lack of knowledge. Mainstream agency mentality toward Indigenous culture and spirituality perpetuates systemic racism. Most First Nations communities continue to live in third world conditions. Native communities or reserves are plagued with abject poverty, severe unemployment, lack of violence, lack of adequate housing, and safe drinking water. Thank you for listening.
It's okay. It's for the film.
Okay. My name is Kevin Bradley Harpsibilly. First off, I come from Oneida Territories, from the Confederacy of the Six Nations, also known as the Standing Stone People. I'm Wolf Clan, and I'm honored to be here among you men and women. I'd like to give acknowledgement to our residential school survivors, and I hold those guys in my heart, and I give those guys are like the resilience those guys, the residential school survivors carry is something that our people have gone through. Those people have been there, those guys were frontline survivors. So I'd like to give thanks to Michael for being here, any intergenerational survivors that are here. I'd like to give thanks for them for being here and just being amongst us. A little bit about myself. I spent 17 years in and out of the federal penitentiary. Provincial jails, I just did a 6 years in the pen, just released in the summertime. And about 3 years ago, I was sitting in my cell and I was writing my grandmother. And my grandmother wrote me back and she told me that my grandfather was in residential schools. And right then and there, I kind of connected the dots. I kind of connected the dots why I've seen my parents using substances, drugs, drinking all the time, partying, stuff like that. I wonder why I used to be beaten and stuff like that. You know, it's because our teachings from our people from back then, from what residential schools have passed down generations. My father lost that being a father. My mother lost that being a mother because of what our people went through. So right then, when my grandmother told me that, I was just like, maybe, you know what? Maybe that's why I've never really known how to adapt to being out in the society. Maybe I never adapted to be able to work a job, or I've always looked at the fast money, doing crime, doing this and that. So right then I just thought, you know what I mean, like something's got to change because, you know what I mean, look at our residential school survivors, look at our older people, and I just think, like, you know what I mean, like what they went through, the resilience they have to be carrying themselves amongst today, and all the endurance they went through is that just blows me away, man. Because what our people went through back then is that's genocide. That's tragic, man. And so like I wanted to break that cycle. The statistic of Aboriginal incarcerated men it's up there. And I was in a maximum institution. I was the chairman of the Native Brotherhood there, and the population right there is 1/3 of the population. So it's pretty big up there. The struggles I see are coming out. I went back once for a couple of weeks and I'm back out now. But the struggles I see about coming out, I really believe we don't have enough, we have no Aboriginal halfway houses, healing houses here in Ontario. We have more out west, that way, but there's none in this region. And for our Aboriginal community inside the walls to be how high they are as they are, I think that's really something that we need, especially here in Toronto. I come out, I don't even from the city, but I got out and I was given a little bit of sense of direction. An Aboriginal community liaison officer was my elders in the penitentiary's daughter. So she came and got me and brought me to the Friendship Center, Council Fire. And you know, I didn't know what I was going to do when I got out, but you know, I went and laid some tobacco down. And then that day I laid the tobacco down is the day something happened. This is one of our, tobacco goes back from one of our, it's one of our 4 medicines, and it's a powerful medicine. And I laid that tobacco down, and sure enough, everything changed around that afternoon. I was taken down to the Friendship Center, and then, you know what I mean, I was connected with old friends, I was connected with like a family. They've helped me change my life around, they've given me something that, you know what I mean, like something to look forward to. But not only that, I want to do it for myself, because I know what my family's gone through, I know what my uncles, my aunties, my grandma, you know what I mean, I know what they've gone through. So to know their story, and my grandma has told me about stuff, what happened while she was in residence. I never knew that until I reached out to her and she told me that. And you know what I mean? So like, to try to break that, we're part of the statistic. Aboriginal people are a part of the statistic while incarcerated. And as sad as it is, we hear about justice this, justice that. Well, I think we got to start doing something about healing our people. Trying to bring them into the society, not just reoffend them and send them back and behind the walls where a lot of our people are. And one of the biggest things I'm talking to Chris over here about, Aboriginal halfway house is on the works. It's going to be coming up. Something's going to be coming up within the next couple of years. But just giving some Native people, like say offenders come out, I think a big thing would be to give them a sense of direction. Because if I didn't have that, you're expected to come out of here and know everything. You're expected to know what you're going to do. You're expected to navigate for yourself. So I was lucky and fortunate enough to have someone come and navigate for me, and someone helped me, my elders' daughter. And she that really opened my eyes up, because you know I'm 17 years in and know that's more than half my life. I'm 31 years old. That's over half my life, and you know what I mean. Like that's not a way to be spending wasted. You know what I mean? So Chris sat me down, and Najia sat me down, and with Mike Gina, and then we decided there's a healing lodge that is upcoming in the works, but they asked me, what would have helped you if you would have got out? And that little bit of self-direction that little bit of someone coming to see me, someone telling me what I could have access to, what programs, what friendship centers, what ceremonies I can help do will help me, because those ceremonies are what are keeping me out here. Those ceremonies want me to better myself, to be there for my family, to provide for my family, has helped me greatly. And that's what was lost when I was younger. You know what I mean? I started speaking my language when I was younger, and then all of a sudden it's gone. You know what I mean? Like I started off on the wrong path. But so many of our people go down that path, and that's why the statistics in penitentiaries are as what they are as of today. So I thank Chris and I thank Najee and I thank Mike for being here and giving me a little sense of direction of what I want to do in helping an Aboriginal inmate. Not only Aboriginal inmates, Chris wants to help the Black community that incarcerated and like stuff like that. We'll just help our peoples, and that's what I'd like to just show you, let you guys know the story. So, yo.
As we already introduced, so I'm Najia Ziwari, and let me first of all thanks Nigel and Tom for the opportunity to Global Citizenship Network request to be here in Urban Alliance on Race Relation Annual General Assembly. So it's my privilege to know you, Nigel, and it was the Human Rights Day, December 10th, that you were here, and we asked for this opportunity, and thanks for make it happen today. As an Afghan woman, I'm here to share my experience, and thank you all for being here in support of First Nation and for your support and solidarity. The country I come from is still struggling for peace, for a real peace. So I came from Afghanistan, so still we are in war somehow. I had the chance and opportunity to sit in peace and reintegration program or peace council, they call it peace council, from 2010 to 2013 as executive committee member and also the secretary of that council. And this